of the league. There is no league table at the moment. There is no league table until 6 games in. Nobody pays any attention to a league table until October at the earliest, aside from Tottenham fans who are currently sitting.
Hello and welcome back to the big stage, brought to you by Betting Expert, where we're going to be going in depth on game week 4 of the Premier League. I'm back in the hot seat. My name's Joe Ryan and I'll be joined by Rory Jennings once again. Now, Rory, back to business. We've had our predictions running throughout the first couple of weeks. We've had the international break as well. It's kind of got in the way a little bit. We'll go in depth in that. But how are you getting on and how have you enjoyed the first few games of the season so far?
I was so happy when the Premier League was back. It was brilliant, wasn't it? It arrived. It was great. Like the games that opened the weekend, it was so good. So many goals, so many talking points. The transfer window was spectacular. Better than I think we could have ever anticipated. Arguably better than we've ever seen. And then it was all kind of put on. The brakes were put on. It was a bit of an emergency stop as we launched into a fairly uninspiring international break. But there were some moments in that as well. It was lovely to see Bukayo Saka score a goal, for example, and a few other things that were good. England are going to Qatar. I'm fairly confident to say that. But yeah, I cannot wait for the Premier League to be back.
That's it. So, I mean, looking at our predictions as well, we want to be focused on the betting side of things. So I'm actually doing a little bit better than yourself, Rory, but there's always plenty of time to turn things around.
Long way to go, Joe. Long way to go.
Exactly. So hopefully, as well, we're going to be giving people a lot of tips just in general about betting and how to kind of maximize your potential. So hopefully we'll all learn a few things from our mistakes and from our successes as well. So I'm not going to gloat too much. As you say, there's a long way to go. But I think we're going to kick off with a quick talking point. You mentioned it already as well. The international break. We're going to go into that in the next segment here on the big stage. So Rory, you touched on it there. This international break that's kind of been uninspiring in terms of the games England should win. Like we've seen that for a long time now. We're fans of the Premier League, so how much does it get in the way? How much does it impact the clubs, in your opinion?
I don't think it's ideal. I think the preparation for Premier League clubs in their season, this is a bit of a stunting effect on them. I don't think it's what we need at all. I think that overall, it's fairly uninspiring for everybody. I think fans struggle to get on board with it. The Premier League felt like it was just gathering momentum. There were some fantastic games, loads to talk about, and overall this international break, it isn't ideal. And when you factor in the fact that we've played 3 games in a week off the back of a season that had its issues, a condensed season last year, then the Euros, then 3 games in a week, it feels a little bit strong to me. I wonder if there is a way of making it slightly more palatable for everybody.
Of course, for me as an Aston Villa fan, the big talking point was Argentina players. What was going on there? Surely they should have known about that before they went out there. What was your view on that situation?
It was a shambles, wasn't it? I can't quite understand how they thought they could get away with it. It seemed like it was a bit of a comedy of errors. I was reading the timeline of how the events manifested into the disaster that it did. And I think initially the civil servants went to the hotel. They just missed the players had already left, and then the game had started. Then the civil servants were on the football pitch. It was a mess. It was a complete and utter mess. I just don't know how do you think you can get away with it. The thing that I find fairly annoying about this kind of thing is it's just bureaucracy. Because had you flown in from somewhere else, there's a way around it. Like I was looking at the fighter Lara who fought against Josh Warrington recently in Leeds. He's obviously flown in from South America, which is a problem. But because he flew to Croatia first and then to the UK, it's totally fine. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? So I think this needs to be looked at and sorted out as soon as possible.
For me, as again, like I touched on with being a Villa fan, I would rather those players didn't go, basically. But what's your view on clubs actually intervening a little bit more and saying players, you're not allowed to go? I know that was kind of agreed on with the Premier League as well. But I mean, you would just basically have them not go, right?
It's very difficult, isn't it? Because what you don't want to do is rob a professional football player and a young man of an opportunity to represent his country. And I actually empathised and I dare I say agreed with Edinson Cavani. Did you see when it was looking like Cavani couldn't travel because of the issues that it would create, because of the amount of games that you'd have to miss for Manchester United, and because of all of the quarantine issues he was going to have to face? Edinson Cavani went onto Instagram and said, "Look, I'm playing for my country. I don't care. I'm playing for my country." And I respect that. I respect it and I rate it. So I wouldn't want my club to stand in the way of a football player fulfilling what is often for it's a childhood dream, isn't it? To represent your country, to play for your country in a tournament. That is a dream of a kid. So I wouldn't want my club to stand in the way of that. But equally, I understand these clubs have to protect their assets. And if they're going to lose, like it was looking like Edinson Cavani, this is all pre-Ronaldo. And I wonder if the impetus to sign Ronaldo was affected at all by the fact that they were going to miss Cavani for such a long period of time. So I think the whole thing is a mess that needs to be looked at. But whatever the answer, Joe, in my opinion at least, I don't think the answer is stop players travelling and playing for their country.
No, I get. Yeah, maybe it's just doing it at a different point in the season as well. Because yeah, like you say, we're kind of feeling a bit flat. 3 games in, the momentum is building, but then we have to have a little pause and a little break, and all these issues have come up as well. Now, something I want to touch on with regards to the international break as well. Just those players or those clubs that don't have as many international representatives. I mean, how much advantage do you think those teams will actually have for the upcoming few weeks?
I think very little, really, because chances are the players that have gone off on international duty are better footballers. So therefore, therefore it's going to even out, isn't it? I'd rather have a tired footballer who's better than a fresh one who's not so good. But look, I think it can be beneficial. There is an angle where it could work, particularly when you think the games are going to come thick and fast now. The European games are going to kick in, and I don't necessarily think that the benefit could be felt now. I don't think going into this weekend's action, for example, I don't think Manchester City are going to suffer this weekend because they have an abundance of international talent. But when we get into that part of the season, generally around Christmas time, when you're playing, I don't know, sometimes you play 2 games in 3 days around Christmas. Then there could be an impact, and I think the cumulative effect can have an impact on muscles and therefore injury and just general fatigue. Like, I'm convinced, I mean, this is a slightly separate conversation, but in my Chelsea WhatsApp group, I'm convinced that Mason Mount is completely knackered. But if you think about the season that he's had, going back to his days at Derby, the bloke's never had a week off. He's practically played, probably a game a week on average for 3 years. So of course he is.
Yeah, I mean, with that level of intensity as well, they're going to be, surely feeling the effects. But one little bit of research I actually did pick up on recently was Betfair. They looked at basically the stats involved with teams coming off the back of an international break, and there's actually advantage for top 4 teams after an international break. So it kind of goes a little bit against convention. Maybe you're thinking that players will be tired, but actually there is a higher win rate in backing the teams in the top 4 because bookies might be taking that the fact that they might be tired into effect into the odds. But let's get into it now. Looking at our quick fire predictions, we're going to go deep into game week 4, starting off with Palace against Spurs. So as I say, Palace against Spurs is our early kickoff. Spurs are the favourites in this one. Rory, I know you're not the biggest fan of Tottenham, even though they are sitting top of the table. How do you see this one going?
Right, that's where we need to stop this. This needs to stop immediately. I can't continue with this stream if we're going to refer to Tottenham as being top of the league. There is no league table at the moment. There is no league table until 6 games in. Nobody pays any attention to a league table until October at the earliest, aside from Tottenham fans who are currently sitting top of it. But they're not. They've scored 3 goals. They've won 3 games 1-0. They're clearly a weak side. It's going to catch up with them. Look, fabulous win on the opening day of the season, but I feel like that was the perfect storm. Playing Manchester City at home with the Harry Kane cloud, with a new manager, the first time the stadium's been full for 18 months. It's the perfect storm. They got the good result. Then they've played two fairly weak teams and won 1-0 each time. So it's very misleading to refer to Tottenham as top of the league, and I must implore you to cease at once.
Well, maybe we'll mention it about Arsenal as well. Maybe their fans shouldn't be looking at
No,
the
they are
bottom end of the
bottom of the
table.
league. Now, there's a league table I value. There's a league table I look at. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But what have you seen from Palace though in their kind of opening few games for basically to have any kind of chance against Tottenham?
I have seen glimmer. What I think Palace have done is managed to have a very astute window. I think they signed players through the window that were decent, and I think the way that they showed so much character to come back from a losing position against West Ham away from home. West Ham are a side that I rate very highly, and the quality of the goals that they scored in
Yeah.
that game. I mean, Conor Gallagher was phenomenal. So that was impressive, and hopefully, from their perspective, they'll be buoyed by that going into this fixture at Tottenham. Another London derby, this time at home. They'll believe that they can get something out of it. But overall, I'm fairly worried for Palace. Obviously, I watched Palace the first day of the season. We beat them convincingly. They offered almost nothing, and there's no shame in that. Obviously, Chelsea are the European champions, so there is no shame in that. But I'm not convinced by Patrick Vieira. I think Eberici Eze being out until they're talking February, March, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is a big issue. But they have signed some good players. Conor Gallagher is a good player. Mark Gay is a good player. So this is actually the litmus test, because you don't want to read anything into the first three games really. They then got a good result coming from behind against West Ham away from home. So it starts now. So what we'll know now is, will that result against against West Ham be something that they use as a motivator and a bit of a springboard into their season, or will we be back to square one like they were when they drew with Brentford?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But our community is actually going for the best bet of under 2.5 goals in this one. I think you kind of share that vibe as well. You've gone for a 1-1 prediction. Myself, I'm actually expecting Tottenham to win this one. I'm expecting Harry Kane to get back on the score sheet as well. I know he's shown it in the Conference League, which you can talk as much as you want about that. But, he needs to get on the score sheet sooner rather than later. And I feel like this is a good opportunity to do that. But now we're going to move on to the next game on the programme. And we are going to talk about Arsenal a little bit. Obviously, yeah, as you can see, bottom of the table. I know Arsenal fans will be sick of seeing that by now. But this one looks like against Norwich, it should be a pretty comfortable win. They are the odds-on favourites. But Rory, for you with Arsenal, what's going on? Will they get back to winning ways in this one?
I really hope not. I really hope not. The only thing, and this is slightly malicious of me, so forgive me for this, but the only thing that I think could be beneficial you've got to think long term. So obviously, Arsenal dropping points to Norwich is a beautiful thing, but they could then use that as a motivator to get rid of Arteta. And I think for the longevity of this Arsenal situation, what we need to hope is that they persevere with him. So maybe if they get points against Norwich, it will mean that Arteta gets more time, which is ideal. But what I think we need to analyse when we look at Arsenal is the first three games, they're almost irrelevant. Arsenal's season starts now. I think when they finish, I tell you when we should judge them, on the full-time whistle after the Tottenham game, which is in 3 games' time. If at that point they're sitting on 9 points, then I think we all hold our hands up and say, do you know what? It's fine. They're pretty much doing what they should do, and Arteta is moving in the right direction. If they are sitting on anything sub 9, so even 7, I think it's then time for him to go. Because if you analyse each result that they've had so far this season, Brentford, perfect storm. Those things happen. Then it was the Premier League champions. Then it was the European champions. So those things happen. But it starts now. Norwich, they must win. They must then beat, I think it's Brighton, and then it's Tottenham. If they get 3 points in each of those games, then I hold my hands up and say it's fine. Anything sub that, then Arteta needs to go.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I mean, even it could just come down to that Tottenham game really for his job. But he is obviously the clear favourite in the sack race as well, so he's odds on to be the first manager to be sacked. So potentially it could even be after this Norwich game. If the result doesn't go their way, he could be straight out the door. Now our community is actually going for an Arsenal win here. Same myself and you, Rory, you're predicting that. So it should be pretty straightforward. But we'll move on to our next game in our quickfire predictions. And that is, of course, Brentford against Brighton. So Rory, you've touched on Brentford there against Arsenal. They held Villa as well to a draw, which was not great for me to see. But how do you see this one going? It is one of the closest matches in terms of the betting odds. Pretty much we're going to see all season. Bookies can't really pick a winner. Can you?
No, I've gone for a 1-1 here. I can't. I think I can see a world in which Brentford win, and I can see a world in which Brighton win, and therefore I think it's got a draw written all over it. I don't think one side is clearly better than the other. I think both have frailties. I just don't know if the opponent will be good enough to exploit the frailties in each team, and therefore I think a draw is the most likely outcome here.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I'm going myself. I'm backing Brighton actually to get the win here. I feel like they have actually shown pretty decent, actually going ahead and scoring goals as well, which of course is their Achilles heel last time out. Community prediction going for 1-0 as well for Brighton, an away win in that one. But now we're going to move on to our feature game of the weekend, or for the first feature game we're going to discuss, and that's Leicester against Man City. And now to help us discuss Leicester v Man City in a little bit more detail, it gives me great pleasure to say I'm joined by Jack from Leicester Fan TV. Now, Jack, welcome to the big stage. Just give us a quick introduction as to who you are and what you do with your channel.
Hi guys, I'm Jack from Leicester Fan TV. We're a Leicester City fan channel on YouTube, talk everything Leicester City. We love our football club. I've been a massive fan of Leicester City. I'm a Leicester lad myself. Going with the dad and the uncle to the very first game in 2000 as a season ticket holder. I've supported Leicester since basically day born. You have to support your own town club, don't you? We've had our ups and downs, but we're on the way up now, and we're making a name for ourselves in the footballing world and making people know who we are and making our mark on things.
I mean, what a journey you've been on. Fair play. That's awesome to hear. But what have you made of the start to the season so far this year?
It's been a rocky start. We've grinded out results when needed, like you do. If you're not playing well, then you grind out the results, and we've done exactly that. Wolves, we had to dig deep second half, having that 1-goal lead. We dug deep, defended well, and we got the 3 points. We then moved on to West Ham away, which was a very difficult game for us. And Mikel Antonio made it an handful. We got that red card in that second half, in the first half, and we seemed to didn't know how to react. With 10 men, it's difficult against 11 men because they have that extra man and that extra width and that, so they tend to want to play you off the park. They did exactly that and rightfully beat us. They were the best team on the day. Norwich away, third game of the season. I think we played well. We lost that pace in Ricardo Pereira due to injury, but we grinded out the result again, which in the Premier League you have to if you're not playing well on the day. So 6 points from the first 3 games is fantastic for us. We would have took a point against West Ham, but we didn't obviously get that in the second game. But all happy at Leicester City. We've still got a lot of things to work on this season, improvement-wise, defensively, down to injuries and that. But we'll get there, and hopefully we'll be strong enough to carry on that run to the Champions League, which we've missed out on in the last 2 seasons.
Amazing stuff that you can talk about Champions League football, considering where they were maybe 10 years ago. Awesome stuff. But what did you make of the international break, just as a fan in general? Do you like it? Do you like the break? Or, I mean, do you want to just get back to Premier League football?
No, I think Premier League football was the main key. You enjoy it more, the international break. It's not really a fan of it, to be honest. Obviously, I'll follow my team, which is England. England are not like watching Leicester. You know, they don't give you that vibe. I guess international break's different, but it takes too long. It feels like it drags quite a lot. International Premier League football, it's more different. It's life seems to go faster than you think. But you look forward to every Premier League game and supporting your club home and away.
Obviously, yeah, Leicester have got Man City at the weekend. I mean, what are your expectations, just maybe with your rose-tinted glasses for Leicester? I mean, what do you expect from this game?
It's going to be a difficult game. Manchester City are one of the best teams in Europe, one of the best in the league. They've won the Premier League quite a lot of times now. They've got some fantastic players in Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden. They obviously got rid of Sergio Aguero this transfer window to Barcelona. But they've still got some very good players. Ederson in goal. Manchester City got their fantastic manager in Pep Guardiola. And Manchester City are a very good European side. They're very difficult to beat, and on their day they can beat anybody. And Leicester can beat anybody as well. We've proven that. We've beat Manchester City since coming back to the Premier League. We've beat the so-called top six, what they like to rub in people's faces and advertise quite well. And Leicester, I think, are a top six club now. And we're not going to battle... We're not going to give up against Man City. We're going to take them on like any other team. We're going to relish the challenge and hopefully get them 3 points come the end.
Now, Rory, I just want to bring in you here as well. What's your take on Leicester as a Chelsea fan yourself? I mean, how have you seen Leicester's meteoric rise, and how do you think they're going to perform on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, well, they've done really well, haven't they? They've established themselves as a top six club. I don't think that they're going to make the Champions League again. I think they've had opportunities to do that over the past couple of years and have fallen short. And I think this year it will be harder than ever. But they're moving in the right direction. They're brilliantly well run. They won their first ever FA Cup last year, which is obviously such a symbolic moment in their history. They've got a European tour this year to preoccupy themselves with, which is, I'm sure, you really look forward to that for many reasons. Following your club in Europe is actually it's a privilege and a dream come true. So I'm sure that they'll be embracing that. And it's amazing that we talk about Leicester City now as a club that are established top six, to the detriment of, they've probably ousted a club with the history and the size of Arsenal. They have probably eclipsed Arsenal as a top six club, which is a huge testament to the owners of the club and to Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And one thing you did touch on there is the European football. So, Jack, I mean, how much do you think that will be a distraction actually from the Premier League? Like, which way should we be looking to be back Leicester? Do we back them for the Europe games or Premier League?
Back on for both. We're going to take every competition seriously. When you're in it, you don't sit there and look at one competition and think, I want to be better in that one. You take every game as it comes, and you want to the highest levels and the highest standards, and you want to go far in any competition. The Premier League has become difficult this season. Obviously, Chelsea have brought in players, haven't they? Romelu Lukaku. Manchester United have strengthened this season with Varane, Cristiano Ronaldo. It's going to be difficult. I just think Leicester have done their transfer business quite well this season. We've gone behind the scenes and only surprised people with what we've gotten for little amounts as well. I think the European tour, it's going to be fantastic to go and watch your club away at Napoli and stuff like that. It's what dreams are made of. Years ago, we wouldn't have dreamed about that. It would have been just a dream and not actually reality. But Vishai had a dream to build a football team. He said we'd be a top six club in years to come. And we've done exactly that. We prove people wrong, the critics and that, and we're a ghost mode to everyone in the Premier League, apart from Manchester City and that, who they only really look at.
No, it's absolutely, yeah, completely agree. Leicester obviously gone under the radar a little bit and just done so well. So one little question I had for you as well is, given that obviously the title win back in 2016, I mean, has that built up the expectation now that Leicester should be in those top six arguments? And then does that put on more pressure for you moving ahead into the future?
I think with the Premier League winning title season, it was very unexpected. No one expected Leicester to win it that season. When you talk about the Premier League, it's always Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool. You expect them teams to go and win the Premier League. Leicester that season defied the odds at 5,000 to 1. And what an incredible achievement. They all pulled together. They fighted for everything in every game. I know we lost to Arsenal twice and Liverpool once, but that didn't defy us as a team. We had that self-belief. and we took every game as it comes. We went and beat Manchester City at the Etihad that season. We beat Chelsea as well at the King Power. Got a draw against Manchester United home and away. Nothing defied us, and nothing were very hidden that season. We went out to every game, battled it the best way we could, and got our trophy, which were fully deserved in the end. I know Arsenal and Tottenham will have their say in it. Obviously, Spurs finished third in a 2-horse race. But in the end, expectations, as you say, we don't put expectations on Leicester. We're not like Man City and that who's got expectations to go and win trophies. We're just under the radar, and if we're going to win if you're up for a trophy, then you're going to go and try the best way to win it, aren't you? So I think that's how we look at it. We don't sit there every season and say we're going to win a trophy. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, then we keep working hard and cementing our top 6 place finish every season.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, you touch on trophies there. Of course, Leicester did beat Man City in the Community Shield. Is there anything to take from that game, do you think, going into this Premier League encounter on Saturday?
I think it just brings confidence. It brings belief that if you could beat anybody, then you can beat anybody on your day. Leicester are one of them teams who always get written off until they start kicking a ball around the King Power or away from home. Manchester City are obviously going to be big favourites going into this one. On paper, they'll expect to win, but maybe on Saturday, it'll be an unexpected result of Leicester City beating Manchester City. It'd be a flash before their eyes.
Well, I think our community, sadly say, Jack, we are going against you. We are predicting a Man City win here, and a quite comfortable one as well. Myself, I'm going for a 4-1 Man City win. I know Rory's echoing that. And our best bet builder suggestion here is to back Man City half-time, full-time, and also for, just 2 seconds. Also for the most goals to be scored in the second half here. That's at 6-1. But Jack, what are your predictions for the game? Just give us a quick prediction for it.
I'm going to go Leicester City 2, Manchester City 1. I'm going to back the boys, and it's at home as well. The crowd are going to be right up for this one, and they're going to back the boys and be that 12th man, which we need. And we're going to take the battle to Manchester City, take that fight and get them points.
Nice one. But thanks a lot, Jack, for your time. Thanks for joining us on the big stage. It'll be a pleasure to speak to you again very soon. But good luck for Saturday. I know we're not expecting Leicester to win, but you are, of course. So good luck for Saturday.
No, thank you. Cheers for having me on.
Great stuff. And now we're going to move on to our next game and it's got a big talking point as well, of course. There will be the game between Manchester United and Newcastle. So, Rory, I mean, last time we were talking about, one man, basically, Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to Manchester United, not going to City. I mean, what did you make of that news? I mean, is it going to change United's season for the better, do you think?
Yes, massively. I think I can't quite understand the narrative that suggests, he's 36 years old. Is he the player that he was when he left? Obviously, he's not, but he's still an elite level football player who outscored Romelu Lukaku last season. It is going to improve Manchester United no end, simply from what he brings on the pitch. Goals and assists are guaranteed, and it's goals and assists galore. But momentarily, suspend reality and forget about that. Just forget about what he brings on the pitch. Everything that he brings off the pitch is going to bring so much more harmony and happiness to Manchester United. The whole tide of Old Trafford will rise because Cristiano Ronaldo has arrived. The noise and volume in Old Trafford will be so much louder, so much more raucous. There'll be Viva Ronaldoing constantly with him there. The expectation levels go up. The players who are playing try a bit harder. He's a player who demands excellence from all his teammates, and therefore everybody needs to raise the bar a touch. What kind of player is Mason Greenwood going to be learning from Cristiano Ronaldo? This is a brilliant signing. There is no bad news, but just to adopting the philosophy of every cloud having a silver lining, I'll try it the other way. Mm-hmm. The one bad thing about signing Cristiano Ronaldo, and this is only really applicable to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but the one bad thing, expectation. Now, prior to the signing of Cristiano Ronaldo, or prior to this window, but especially Cristiano Ronaldo being added to it, there was always a reason the people who love Solskjaer, there's always a reason why he hadn't won any silverware in 3 years. There's always a reason. They bring up Fred, they bring up McTominay, they bring up Wan-Bissaka, they bring up Lindelof. At times they bring up Maguire. Now, this Manchester United team is phenomenally good. There is no reason that this team doesn't win silverware, and if they don't, Solskjaer has to go. That is now non-negotiable for me. I think the team that has been assembled by Solskjaer, credit to him, and on his behalf, I think Ed Woodward is a man who's come under a lot of stick, but he's got this window spot on. Now, the one bit of jeopardy for Solskjaer is it's quantifiable. End of the season, if there's no silverware, you're gone.
I mean, well, yeah, you say end of the season, but does he even get to that, do you think? Like, if results don't go United's way, could it even be sooner than that, given the players they've got? I mean, they've not actually looked great in the first few games, to be honest. I know they're getting wins, but they're not looking convincing, apart from obviously the game against Leeds. But yeah, could it even be sooner if results don't go their way?
Yes, I think it could be. I think it could be, but I'm inclined to say that they'll give him the season. I'm inclined to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will see this season out, but at the end of this season, I think it's silverware is a prerequisite. It isn't about going a long way in the Champions League or nearly winning the FA Cup or potentially winning the league. It's about you need to see Solskjaer holding a trophy aloft. That needs to happen. And whether it's at Wembley, whether it's at Old Trafford with the Premier League, or whether it's in St. Petersburg with the European Cup, there needs to be silverware this season for Solskjaer.
But just one quick question as well. How do you see Ronaldo fitting in to that United team? Like, just the dynamics of the squad, how they've set themselves up in the opening games. How does Ronaldo fit into that for you?
Well, I mean, he's going to play as a centre forward, so I think it works. I think it will be it will be Cavani or it will be Cristiano Ronaldo, and this is a wonderful problem for Solskjaer to have. This is ideal. I can't see a world where Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't play virtually every minute of every game that he's fit for, and like we're making it sound like a problem here, Joe, but this isn't a problem. This is how do you fit one of the best players who have ever played the game, who is still in his peak. He still is a peak footballer. He's still outscored Lukaku. Look at him. He's in fine fettle. How do you fit one of the best footballers who have ever graced the game while they're in the peak into a team? I don't know, but it's a kind of problem. It's a kind of problem you want, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to mention back to the Euros, but basically write Ronaldo off at your peril. I didn't think he would score in the tournament, and obviously proved me very wrong. So I'm thinking I'm going to go, predict that he will get on the score sheet. It's odds of 1.38, so one of the shortest prices of any time goal scorer I've pretty much ever seen for him to actually get on the score sheet against Newcastle. And I feel like Newcastle aren't going to be strong enough. I mean, we're both going for a comfortable home win in this one. Same for our betting expert community as well. The tip of Man United minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap looks like the safest bet just because of the firepower and the lift that Ronaldo will give Man United. But let's move on to our next game. We're now going to look at Southampton against West Ham. Of course, West Ham, the story of the season for me so far. They've been really impressive. Mikel Antonio doing the business every week, it seems. Absolute beast in that West Ham lineup. But what have you made of West Ham's start to the season so far, and do you think they'll continue this fine form?
I think it'd be very difficult to continue it, particularly when their European campaign starts. I think it'd be very tough. I think they'll have a good season, by the way. I'm not writing them off at all. I think they will have a really good season. But to continue on this level is going to be tough with Europe. And also, we saw in the Crystal Palace game, they just lack a little bit of know-how in terms of getting results. I think a slightly more shrewd, clever team, an experienced team, would have got the result against Crystal Palace. And that's why I think Jesse Lingard was such a good player for them. What he brings on the pitch, but also just that level of experience, knowing how to close games out, knowing how to accrue silverware, knowing how to make sure that you get the 3 points sometimes when you don't deserve them. So it's just a little bit of a learning curve this season for West Ham. But I do think they'll have a good season. And I think they're going to go a really long way in Europe. You remember how it's only the season before last that Wolverhampton Wanderers were in the last 8 of the Europa League, wasn't it? I can see West Ham doing something similar.
Yeah, similar to how Fulham did it a few years ago as well, right? They got to the final, wasn't it? A few years ago, yeah.
Yeah, they got
So
to the
something similar
final.
to that,
Diego Forlan. Yeah, they knocked out
yeah. That's it.
Juventus along the way, didn't they? Yeah,
Yeah,
Roy Hodgson. It's the
exactly.
worst thing that ever happened to English football. That he got the England job off the back of that. What a disaster! If only
I
Fulham had
I
gone
won't
out in
bring
the
that up
groups,
again.
it would have never happened. Yeah.
But of course, they are taking on Southampton on Saturday, and now Southampton themselves not looking particularly good, but the bookies are actually giving. Well, West Ham are the slight favourites. There's not a clear favourite in this game. I mean, what do you make of Southampton? How do you think they're going to do this year?
I mean, I thought they were going to do really badly. I thought that they could have gone down, but their performances have been a lot better than I anticipated. I don't rate Hassan Hutel. I feel like he's a manager who gets a lot of plaudits when perhaps he doesn't deserve them. Um, I think that letting Danny Ings go was a statement for me. It just made you wonder where they think the goals are going to come from. But Livramento has been a great signing for them. James Ward-Prowse has been as good as he always is. Oriol Romeo is still there playing well. So maybe there is enough to keep them up. And I mean, I just don't think that their manager is good enough. But they could potentially stay up. But I can't see them getting anywhere this weekend.
No, and yeah, our top bet from the community as well for this one is West Ham draw no bets. I think we're both in agreement that that's a pretty solid bet there. Odds of 1.78 at Unibet. Now we're going to move on to Watford against Wolves. Now Wolves are almost turned into Brighton in terms of the XG stats. Now I know Rory, you're not a big fan of that, but I actually do look at that quite intensively because yeah, it does tell the story quite well. Wolves have or should have won plenty more games than they have already. But what have you made of Wolves' start to the season?
I thought they were very good against Manchester United. I mean, it was a smash and grab from United, wasn't it? And Wolves played brilliantly. I think that clearance off the line from Aaron Wan-Bissaka was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And had that gone in, it would have obviously been a very different story. I just don't know if Wolves are going to have enough about them this year. I don't think they've bought particularly well. I've read like earlier today that Jimenez could be out of this game against Watford. And if he's out, I just don't think they're going to have enough about them. And when you think about how Watford are going to play this game, they're going to be very intense. They're going to be in their face. It's at Vicarage Road. I just don't know if there will be enough from Wolves with the fact that Jimenez is out. But saying that, Watford are terrible, aren't they? So it's tricky. It's a tricky one to predict. Maybe just the accumulation of Premier League experience will see Wolves through on this one.
Yeah, we do have Wolves as the favourite, and I think that is the safest bet in this one. Yeah, hopefully, while Jimenez does play and actually makes a good fist of it and actually does score and converts some of those chances that they've been so good at making. So moving on then, we're going to look at the feature game, another feature game for this show. And as an Aston Villa fan, it does pay me to say that we are going to be up against it against Chelsea, but let's go in depth into Chelsea against Villa. So Rory, I had intended to come into this one giving you exactly why Villa are going to beat Chelsea, why we have a chance. But after that fiasco of the international break, Martinez ruled out, Buendia now ruled out as well. I can't see it going any other way than a Chelsea win. How do you see this one going?
Yes, I'm fairly confident that Chelsea will win. Although I'm weirdly not as confident as you. I think that Chelsea should win this game naturally. But there's something about this Aston Villa team that I really rate, and I don't know if I'm scarred from the last game of the season last year. Do you remember when Chelsea had to win in order to guarantee Champions League qualification? And Aston Villa were magnificent when they had very little to play for. So I don't know if that's kind of playing on my mind a bit. But I do think Chelsea will win. But I'm very aware of the threat that Villa pose. I think Danny Ings is. I got in a little bit of grief for this, but I do stand by it. I think Danny Ings is this too strong, Joe? Danny Ings is one of the best strikers in the league.
I don't think so. I think that's fair. I mean, as a Villa fan, I'm going to support him pretty much always. But yeah, I mean, look at the stat there. He's been involved, 8 goals in his last 9 games. So yeah, he'll put away chances if he gets them.
And I think he will. Thiago Silva is part of this fiasco from South America as well. So Thiago Silva won't be playing. So we have our own issues at the back to worry about. But no, I agree. I think Chelsea will win. But I think it will be tight. I don't think this is going to be one of those where Chelsea. I can remember Chelsea beating Villa 8-0 back in the day when Ramirez scored a couple and I think Torres scored and whatever. This isn't that. This is going to be very tight, and I think it will actually be on a knife edge.
Well, yeah, I mean, our community is looking at this as a one-sided affair as well. Chelsea to win to 0 looks like a pretty safe bet as well. If we're missing the creativity of Buendia in the middle, Ings, yeah, if he gets the chances, of course, he can put them away, but I feel like Chelsea should be too strong in here in this one. And with those defensive issues with Martinez not available, looks like Chelsea to win by 2 or more. Looks like a pretty good bet from our community. So, yeah, Rory, your prediction for the game?
I think Chelsea nick it. I think Chelsea nick it 2-1.
Okay, I'm going for 3-0 Chelsea, to be honest. And this is actually something I wanted to touch on just with you and your opinion on betting against your own team. I mean, have you ever done it? And how do you feel about it?
Never. Impossible. I never. There will never be a day where I think Chelsea won't win a game. But it's not out of sheer loyalty. I'm not just saying that I think Chelsea will win when I don't. I genuinely believe that Chelsea and England will win every single game they play because that's what I actually decide is going to happen. I appreciate that that's nonsense, but I'm not just saying it. I believe it. I believe the nonsense.
I think that's fair. No worries. Now we'll move on to the next game. We're going to look at Leeds against Liverpool. Now, of course, some interesting styles here with regards to the management. So Bielsa against Klopp should be a really interesting encounter. Liverpool are the slight favourites. Over 2.5 goals looks pretty nailed on at 1.59. But Rory, do you expect a lot of goals in this one?
Sorry, excuse me. Yes. I think that there could. I think that there could be. I think this is quite an exciting game, and it's almost fixture of the weekend. I think all eyes are going to be on Old Trafford and Newcastle and the Manchester United game. But for me, this is one of the fixtures of the weekend. I think Leeds United need this; they desperately need it. And I think Liverpool. People were saying that this could be a resurgent Liverpool this year. They could win the league. They had 45 minutes to score against Chelsea. They didn't, and they haven't looked particularly good. So going to Ellen Road is the litmus test. If Liverpool come out of that with 3 points, and I think it's a massive statement, and the pursuit of the Premier League is on. If they drop points again, then it's really bad news. But equally, if Leeds drop points again, it'd be a horrific start to the season for them. So for me, this is going to be a huge game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now I'm looking at Mo Salah as potential, first goal scorer in this one. It would be his 100th Premier League goal as well. I mean, just touch on his impact in the Premier League. I mean, what a player he's been, right?
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Mo Salah. I think it's a weird one because I don't necessarily think that he gets the respect that he deserves. I mean, that stat that came out that that he's now scored in excess of 20 Premier League goals for 5 consecutive seasons. That is unbelievable. The first player to do that as well. I mean, that is truly, truly unbelievable. And I think the biggest compliment that I can pay him is, when you think of the rich history within which Liverpool Football Club operate. And, it was before my time, but, obviously, I went to university in Liverpool. I'm fully aware of the brilliance of the club. When you hear about Ian St. John and Roger Hunt and then Kenny Dalglish and then into our era where it was Ian Rush, Robbie Fowler, Fernando Torres, Luis Suarez. I think it's now got to the stage where if you asked most Liverpool fans to do their dream team, their all-time dream 11, I think Mohamed Salah is in it.
I mean,
despite all of those names. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's arguably no bigger compliment certainly in British football in terms of that run of strikers. I don't think any club has got that level of centre forward. Maybe Manchester United when you look over the years who they've had, but it's only comparable between those two clubs. So the fact that Mohamed Salah is now mentioned in the same breath as Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, Ian St. John, Roger Hunt, better than Fernando Torres in his Liverpool pomp, better than Luis Suarez in his Liverpool pomp. You just think, wow, I mean, this is actually a moment in history. What we are witnessing with Mohamed Salah is a moment in history.
I mean, how much regret do you have that then Chelsea sold him?
Mate. I mean, it's just nonsense, isn't it? It's truly ridiculous. I can see though. Have you seen in the recent deals that Chelsea have been doing? You can see that they've learned and they're burnt from that because Tammy Abraham, for example, there is a buyback clause.
Mm.
I don't think they think that they're going to ever need a buyback clause. I love Abraham, but I don't think the club rate him. But they're just going to insert one now, just in case, because they're really worried about the Mohamed Salah and Kevin De Bruyne situation.
Now, for our community best bet on the Leeds Liverpool game, we are expecting a really entertaining match. We're going for over 3 goals. Both teams to score as well, so we do expect Leeds to get on the score sheet and for Liverpool to win, just to boost those odds a little bit in the bet builder. That comes out at odds of 100 to 30. Now, looking at our picks, I am in the lead, but we're going to go finish off the week by looking at the Monday night game between Everton and Burnley. Now, here I feel like Everton should be the comfortable favourites to win the game, which they are, 1.75 with the bookies. Burnley at odds of 4 to 1. But Rory, I mean, do you give Burnley any chance in this one?
I certainly think they have a chance. I certainly think they have a chance. I mean, there is a vulnerability to Everton every season, so there is a chance. And I do rate Burnley. I do rate Sean Dyche, but I do also think that Everton are going to be too strong here. I think that what Rafael Benitez has done is quite impressive, annoyingly. And when you look at the way they play, when you look at the results, I was very impressed with the result that they had at Ellen Road. Not easy to go there. The first time it's full in the Premier League for since 2004. The first time it's full ever for 18 months. So to go and get a good result the way that they did, and they were unlucky not to win that game, they dominated large periods of it, was actually a bit of a beacon to me. That it made me wake up to acknowledge that Everton are decent and are going to be a threat, and I just think they'll have far too much for Burnley.
Yeah, I think our community are going on the same lines as well. Going for an easy Everton win. Myself, I'm going for Everton actually -1.5. I feel like they should cover that. They should win by 2 or more goals. But Rory, just quick fire your prediction for this one.
I think Everton will win it 2-1.
Okay, so hopefully a bit of an entertaining game as well. Goals at both ends. But that wraps up our predictions for Game Week 4 in the Premier League. You can also look at the profiles on Betting Expert, where you can track all of Rory's bets and my own bets, and also post your own if you feel like you can outdo us. And we'll be back next week to review our results. But Rory, for now, thanks a lot for joining us once again on the big stage, and we'll speak to you next week. Good luck with your predictions.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Great stuff. And of course, if you do place a bet on any of our suggestions on the big stage, then we ask you do please gamble responsibly.